Okay, I'm gonna do a little video. It's a little bit of a cardboard, and this is some sorry. This is some soil that I had purchased from a company last year, and to me it was super duper hard. It was super expensive, and I honestly really was not impressed with it. It clumped up, and it just is super hard. I had never used the company before, but the soil needed to be amended right away. And if you're going to pay that much for premium soil, you should get premium soil, I think. But this is what it did. It clumped. This also has rabbit manure and veggie scraps in it, cardboard. And yeah, see how hard that is? I have it covered up because of the wind, and I didn't want to get rain in here and then not be able to move it into the new beds. So there's a lot of cleanup that I'm working on the farm, and yeah, you can see building raised beds using this to go in between the wood and everything. So this is what soil looks like after I get done with it. This is that soil that I got last year. And it is just, it's rock hard. I'm not impressed with it. I added some perlite to it, and I will rough it up pretty good. And then when I plant in it, I will put some rabbit manure down, probably some coffee grounds to soften it up a little bit. But yeah, if you're wanting to save money, I know it takes a lot of resources, but I use veggie scraps, I use coffee grounds, shredded paper, cardboard, rabbit manure, and always have gotten really good worms automatically in the soil. But last year I did get the red wigglers, or was that, yeah, that was last year. I can't keep track of the years anymore. And they will make really good soil. But I really just wasn't real impressed with that soil. I'm pretty persnickety when it comes to soil. I work really hard to make the soil good. And as you can see, I've got some stuff coming up. I got a pretty late start this year. Also, we did put logs down at the bottom, you know, because we had tons of logs. We still have tons of logs that we can put at the bottom. And then that also is like a hugelkultur bed, and that makes really good soil. So the few places that I did have the red wigglers, I thought they'd drowned. Nope, I still have them. So they've been moved into these new raised beds, and I'm looking forward to this growing season quite a bit. These beds are really going to help me, and I've got quite a bit done. I still have a lot more to go. But here's something else I want to talk to you guys about. Another thing on this homestead journey, you don't need fertilizers. And I'm going to tell you, herbicides, chemicals, you don't need any of that. I've not ever used it. I can tell you firsthand, I use integrated pest management, I use rabbit manure, I don't use chemicals, fertilizers, none of that junk. So with the shortages and all the high prices coming up, be resourceful. It's better for the environment anyway to use all natural. Don't fret. I have pet rabbits, and I use that manure. Learn about your poop, because some poops are hot, some are cold, some you don't want to use. Like, you would not want to use anything from a pig, or there's lots of parasites in the pig manure, and they're kind of a dirty animal, and so you don't want to use that manure. I know people have chickens. The chicken manure is okay. It's hot, so you have to You know, watch it. Horse manure is the same way. It's super hot. I don't use any of that. I use my rabbit manure. I have pet rabbits, and I don't have any other farm animals, so anyway, I just want y'all to know that I have been growing and farming for years, and I have never used those things. So with everything going on, don't worry about it. Get resourceful, use the natural. You're going to find that it's so much better anyway. And you're not going to be killing the good bacteria in the soil with your chemicals and herbicides and pesticides and things like that. You just don't want to do that. You've got really good stuff in your soil. It kills the worms, it kills just everything, really. Makes your soil toxic. And in my opinion, I feel like that's what gives people cancer, because they've already proven it with like Roundup and other stuff. Just the thought of something that kills something just doesn't sound appealing to put in the soil where you're going to grow your food. That's just my thoughts. And with everything going on, I thought I would talk to you guys about it, because I am living proof you don't need all that. You don't. I mean, and it's so much better for you. Learn about your beneficial nematodes. Learn about your integrated pest management. If you're going to use the best resources you can use for your pests are ladybugs and lacewings. If you get praying mantids, you can't get the other stuff, because the praying mantids will eat the ladybugs and lacewings. They'll eat everything. So you don't want to do that. You see tarantulas on your farm, don't kill them. They eat a lot of bugs. They're really your garden friend. I've seen them here in the garden, and one year I had squash bugs, and it was cruising through there eating all the squash bugs, and I'm like, heck yeah. So you don't want to kill stuff. And I know they're scary looking. If you don't mess with it, it won't mess with you. Just leave stuff alone. Nature has a balance. So be careful what you bring in. And the Asian ladybugs is not what I'm recommending. Those are those fat ones that stink, they bite, they emit this orange sticky gluey stuff, and they're nasty. They're very invasive, and our U.S. Department of Agriculture brought them in, and that was a huge mistake. The regular ladybugs are what you really want. But that's what I recommend. And you have to have a lot of nectar plants to keep them fed and keep them here. You want to keep them here, because once they eat everything, which they do pretty quick, then they move on to find other food sources. So that's just some information for you. And this is for people who don't know. There's a lot of people that follow me that are new to gardening, new to homesteading, and they want me to share things with them. And so I feel like I'm going to start doing a series on how I roll around here. And that way, it's a living resource for my friends and some of the people that are just now starting homesteads and gardening and stuff that have known I've done this for years and such. So anyway, we don't have wind right now. It's so calm. The wind was horrible earlier. It's died down. My voice is a little raspy. I have allergies. I'm allergic to a lot of this stuff, and there's a lot of pollen in the air, and it's just been blowing dust. It's so dry here, and it just kind of affects my allergies. I was up, oh my goodness, from 2:30 to about 6 o'clock, and I fell asleep for an hour, and then I was back up at 7. So yeah, it's kind of rough, but don't sleep much anyway. I went ahead and planted some potatoes in the ground back here, and this is just soil back here where the beds were that we cleaned up, and over there is where the blueberries were that the ice storm took out. So I thought about putting the blueberries back here because you can't grow them in the full sun, and I'm probably going to do that again. I have several new blueberry bushes, but I'm revamping the garden, revamping the farm, so it's going to take me a little bit to figure out how exactly I want to go about placing stuff, where I want to grow everything, and just getting this done with all this down so that I don't have to mow anything here. I can see snakes, and also, keep the Bermuda and the weeds from growing up. So I'm going to have to figure out how I'm going to cover that little area around the tree. So I'll probably have to just put some there and put some there. My idea is just not to have to mow back here to be able to grow stuff. And sea snakes, definitely got to see snakes. And then that'll help me a lot. And plus, the weeds and stuff won't grow up through here. And I definitely need to pull that off because the snake could just crawl back in there, and I could walk up here to harvest my onions and kale and I could get bit. So anyway, these beds, I've got another one built. So I figure I can put one more on the other side. I'm going to go ahead and I put the tarp down. I'm going to have my husband pick this soil up that came out of the beds that were here. I'm going to dump it on the tarp a little bit at a time. I'm going to sift the rhizomes out and re-put it in the beds. It's going to be a little bit of a process, but so right now there's potatoes planted in there. Got to get this one full. And then for this area right here, I can put one more of these big square beds. So these will grow watermelon and potatoes in them. And I thought that was the perfect size. I can just walk up. They're not on the ground. I don't have to worry about the Bermuda grass, because even with raised beds, guys, look at this. I took this apart. Somehow that Bermuda got in there. You see that? It grew up over the plastic and into the bed. That's what I deal with. And as you can see, it chokes everything out. I'm tired of dealing with it. It's too invasive, and it takes too long to try and pull that out and weed. And I got way too much out here to be able to have the time to do that anyway. So my little pallet beds are going to do me fine for a couple years until this mess goes away and I can start putting in the big raised beds again. But anyway, if you have any questions, leave me comments below. There's resources I can tell you about if you're local. If you want to order online, I recommend Arbico Organics for your beneficial nematodes. You can get like the triple threat. They also work in the soil if you just covered your whole entire garden with the triple threat. You're going to eliminate tons of pests. And it also gets ticks, which we don't have fleas here, but it will wipe out fleas. It wipes out a huge range of problems. And then where the pecans are, I don't have worms in the pecans. When I spray it in the orchard on the ground in the spring, I don't have bugs or worms in my peaches, apples, any of that stuff. So, yes, it's great. I mean, they really work. I'm going to be taking apart these. I started to take apart the other one. We'll go ahead and get this all mowed because it's starting to really grow up around here. I'll take the soil out of here and put it in the other raised beds as they're being built. Then I'll put some tarps down. And I thought I could put 3 or 4 of those little square beds. Or rectangle, they're not square. Back here, or I could do maybe 2 or 3 of the big square beds. You just never know with me. I change my mind like the Oklahoma wind blows. I'm really working hard to get all this done because of the snakes. I definitely want to get back here, get this cleaned up so I can mow. I want to get all this covered up, all that covered up. I don't want anything on the ground that can come up, so I don't have to mow back here. And if there are snakes, they can get on there and I can see them. That is the key thing. Because back here, there's a lot of snakes. And you can see that is the neighbor's property on the other side of that fence. And you can see where the wildfire just went through there and just burned the heck out of everything. Except for that cedar tree, of course. I would have been happy if it would have burnt that. But, yeah, you can still see the burnt stump. But, yeah, I know it's a long video, and thank you for bearing with me, but I thought I'd bring you in and kind of talk about things and give you different resources. So, I will catch y'all later.